Welcome back. Today I want to talk about something I have covered before, but it was years ago, and I haven't really touched on it much, but it's super important, is safety. Safety around horses in general. I will, however, go into a little bit more depth on a couple of topics that are controversial ones, but it's just a good example of what I want to talk about, so I will use it. But I want to start by saying I am not in any way, shape, or form against any type of safety gear that you want to use, be it the protective vests that you can buy, uh, gloves, good footwear, helmets, any of that stuff. I'm not against any of that. But I actually will talk about helmets a bit because my problem with a lot of this stuff isn't the equipment itself, but why people use it. And, well, unfortunately, helmets just happen to be a really easy one to use as an example. And so I will be talking about helmets, which always starts an argument. So, hey, save the comments, okay? If you want to make comments about safety in general, that's okay. Please feel free to make comments below this video. I encourage people to have a rapport with me. No problem there. But if you just want to argue about helmets, don't even bother because I've seen enough examples that you're not going to change my mind on this stuff because I have participated in activities that involved the use of helmets, and I've even been involved with work that required a considerable amount of protective equipment, and I am never going to undervalue uh, things like, for example, helmets. I mean, there's absolutely no argument. They work if there's an impact. And one of the things that I am really big on, though, is preventing that impact in the first place. And that is what I want to talk about, is preventing the accident, not just worrying about what you're wearing when you have one. I mean, that's okay. I mean, there's no, like I said, there's no argument at all that helmets will help. But, like I said, let's prevent the accident in the first place. And one of the ways that you can do that is by being aware of your surroundings and potential hazards. Now, as part of my job in the past, one of my jobs, I had to daily go around, look over the work site, make note of all of the potential hazards, not active ones, but potential ones. And I had to make a list of them and then, beside each one, some kind of a proactive action that we should take to prevent that potential from turning into an actual accident. And that's what you have to do around horses because even here, there are signs that say, as a warning to both horse owners and their guests, that even just being around horses can potentially be dangerous. And that's no lie. I mean, horses have a reputation of being dangerous animals. Well, partly unjustified because of the fact that the uneducated aren't aware of the dangers and therefore they do not protect themselves from the dangers. And, well, the dangers happen, people get hurt, and the horse gets blamed. Everybody says horses are dangerous. Well, one of the things that you can do, and I've talked about this before, is good footwear. Because one of the things that you can guarantee is going to happen is you're going to get stepped on. It's not a matter if it happens. That's one of those things that it's just a matter of when. And I've actually had it happen to myself a few times. And, it's not always the fault of the horse that you're working with either. Sometimes it's your own fault for not paying attention to where your feet are. Now, I'm at a little bit higher risk in that department because I trim my own horses, so I'm frequently standing in a place where I could get stepped on. But even for those of you that don't trim your own, you clean the feet. Hopefully, you pick their feet out on a fairly regular basis. That would automatically put you in the danger zone, at least for getting stepped on. Actually puts you in the danger zone for a couple of things, but won't get into that. We're just going to talk about getting stepped on right now. And Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do about it because of what you have to do. You have to put yourself in that situation. So be aware of where your feet are. If that horse ever pulls its foot away quickly and puts it down, it may end up on top of yours. So be ready in a hurry to pull your foot out of the way, move your foot, whatever's necessary. And please wear some decent footwear. Don't be doing that kind of stuff in flip-flops, because if the horse ever does step on you, it's going to be serious. And depending on the surface that you're on, the harder the ground, the worse the injury. Fortunately, not the last time, but the time before that when I got stepped on, it was on very soft ground, very little injury, just a little slight bruise. That was about it. So that was one of the things to talk about. The other one is, in general, being around horses, pay attention to your surroundings. I mean, these ones behind me here, they range from 9 to 1,200 pounds. And that kind of weight bumping into you, even if it's not intentional, if it bumps you, it's going to move you, and it could put you against something quite hard that, depending on what it is, it could cause some serious injury. And that's where you've got to be aware of your surroundings, avoid that situation as much as possible, which is one of the reasons I really don't like being in a box stall with a horse, because it is potentially dangerous. 99% of the time, nobody ever gets hurt in a box stall, but there's always that 1% that could happen. It's a potential accident. You want to avoid that one? Stay out of the box stall with a horse. Take your horse out into an open space. Personally, I like working in the arena here instead of a box stall when I'm doing things, whether it's cleaning their feet, brushing them, anything. I like doing it in here. Why? It's much safer. A number of reasons, and this is where it called, being aware of your surroundings and thinking ahead of potential problems, understanding horses a bit. I understand horses that when you restrict their movement, they get nervous. Putting them in a box stall automatically increases the risk of something going wrong. Okay, so this is safety. And by bringing them in here, I've automatically, if they're uncomfortable with their situation with me, which are going to be less likely to be in the first place because they've got more room, but if for any reason they do feel the need to move, there's lots of room here to move. So they can. So, and they can move away from me. They're not going to bump me into anything because, as you can see, there's nothing near me. Lots of room here. So this is definitely, in my opinion, much, much safer. Just one of those many things. Another thing is that, this is where I got to go into the helmet thing. I hate doing this because I know it's just going to rile a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to get turned off by it, but helmets don't prevent accidents. Never. Not one. I don't know how many times I've heard people say this, is that, oh, the helmet saved me. No, I'm sorry to say it. The helmet did not save you. You put yourself in danger in the first place because you were doing something you probably shouldn't have been doing in a situation you shouldn't have been in, that you or the horse wasn't ready for. Either you were riding a horse that you had no business being on in the first place, or the horse was not prepared for the circumstances that it was going to be in. And this often happens when people take horses to shows and competitions and something where there's lots of noises, crowds, loud sound systems, all sorts of things that can really get the horse upset, crowded conditions, a lot of activity, just stuff that the horse is absolutely not used to. And then all of a sudden the horse freaks out, the rider goes flying, and then they say, oh, gee, the helmet saved me. No, the helmet didn't save you. You endangered yourself by taking an unprepared horse and putting it into a situation that it couldn't handle. And you also probably weren't a good enough rider to stay on the horse when things went wrong. Safety. It's not about what you're wearing. It's about putting yourself into situations that, well, quite frankly, you shouldn't have been in the first place. One of the things that a lot of people like to say is, well, you don't understand. I had to. No, you didn't have to. Nobody was standing there with a gun pointing at you saying that you have to do this. Never. Well, maybe at some point somebody did somewhere, but I've never heard of it ever happening. But a story locally here that I know of, I talked to the individual that it happened to. I'm going to share. It was one of those situations. They ended up riding a horse that wasn't even theirs to start with. And they never did give me all the details on why they were even on that horse. All they said is their justification was, you don't understand. I had to, which is a very typical statement. They were in some kind of an event that there was no points or awards or anything like that. So I think this was a personal pride thing that they had to show somebody they could ride this particular horse. And even though that horse had shown them ahead of time that it was acting a little weird and potentially was going to be a problem, they got on it anyhow, even though they knew they shouldn't have. And I said, well, the horse warned you. Why'd you get on it? No, that was when they said, you don't understand. I had to. No, they didn't have to, but they did anyhow. Pride, ego, I don't know. I can't say I wasn't there, but the horse did act up. They come flying off, hit the ground, and, well, they actually ended up unconscious for a little while. When they regained their senses, they found themselves sitting in a chair that somebody had carried them to and put them in. But that was a typical example of somebody doing something they shouldn't have done. Now, I don't even know whether or not they were wearing a helmet. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Doesn't matter. Fact is, it's one of those things that a lot of times people will put a helmet on or a safety vest or something like that, and they think they're going to be safe in ignoring all the other potential things that could happen regardless. Because like I said, a helmet has never, ever, ever prevented an accident. And give you an example is race car drivers. They all wear helmets. They know the value of a good helmet. But the helmet alone doesn't keep them safe. And a helmet doesn't prevent accidents. It's all the other safety precautions that they take and the awareness of their surroundings and their own prevention of an accident that keeps them safe, not just the helmet. The helmet is only helping in the event of an accident. The helmet doesn't prevent the accident at all. In the event of an accident, absolutely. That's why they wear them. They know that. They work. But the true goal is to make sure that an accident doesn't happen. So be aware of your surroundings. Taking a green horse out on a trail ride where potentially there could be some kind of a disturbance, either something falling out of a tree or a car backfiring on a road nearby or somebody starting up their chainsaw, all of which I have personally experienced, can get the horse a little upset. And I don't care if you're wearing a helmet or not. That doesn't prevent the horse from getting upset. And the problem is your pride and ego said, I'm going to go ride that horse out somewhere. And you didn't take into consideration the fact that it was potentially dangerous. You didn't try and prevent the accident. You just put your helmet on and thought, hey, I'm safe now. I got a helmet on. Sorry, that helmet does not keep you safe. Again, no argument about what it can do if you do get hit in the head, but it doesn't stop that from happening. What's under the helmet can stop that from happening. And that's what I say, the safety thing is really, I hate seeing horses getting blamed for being bad or dangerous, and it happens more times than you can count. It has been happening for hundreds of years because people don't understand the risks involved being around horses. They don't understand the potential things that the horse could do in a certain situation, how they can react, and what they can do to prevent those things from happening. Because there are as many things that you, as the caretaker of that horse, can do. You can be aware of your surroundings and prevent things from happening. I want to go with another little story, and it was another local one. It was actually a young lady that used to board here. She ended up with a broken leg. And she was a fairly good competitor, and I don't remember the exact discipline. I don't remember what it was, but she was at a competition where she happened to get in between two horses. One was her own, one was somebody else's. And this other horse took a kick at her horse, and she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. She ended up with a broken leg, which required surgery, lost an entire season of competition, and it was preventable if she hadn't have been in between two horses. Even though her horse was not a big risk to her, the other horse she didn't know. And actually that was the one that kicked and ended up breaking her leg. And, well, again, that's where if she had have prevented herself from being in between two horses, believe me, that can be a big issue sometimes, because if the horse ever, another time, a personal thing is, I actually got bit by, last time I bit, in fact, it was the last time I got bit by a horse. It was actually by accident, as far as, well, the horse wasn't trying to bite me. It was actually trying to bite the other horse. My arm just happened to get in the way. Although that all happened so quick, well, unless my reflexes were a whole lot faster, I don't think I could have done much to stop it, but it was just another example of the things that can happen. And wearing a helmet or a safety vest or any other type of protective equipment wouldn't have prevented those accidents. What would have prevented those accidents from ever happening was using the brain and not being in between two horses that were having some kind of a confrontation. Same thing with, as I said before, a horse can bump into you, knock you into something, and hurt you bad. Corner of something with a bolt sticking out can penetrate you and do some very serious injury. Is the horse trying to hurt you? No, not at all. But if you happen to put yourself in a situation that's a little crowded, and there's more than one horse too, one horse might move to get it away from another horse, and in the process end up hitting you, because when they get into a situation like that, their own well-being is priority number one. You're number two. I don't care how much you think your horse loves you. If it comes to the crunch, their survival versus yours, you don't count. Okay, so that's where you got to really be paying attention and thinking ahead of what can happen. There's just, the number of scenarios are just absolutely endless. And I've experienced a lot of them myself. I've heard about a lot of them. And you know what? You can put on all the protective equipment you want, and it is not going to stop a single one of those from happening. In fact, most of the injuries that I know of were either on the ground, where there was no protective equipment being worn, or in spite of the protective equipment, they still got hurt. And, well, like I said, protective equipment of any kind does not prevent accidents. And if you do not understand the nature of a horse and the things that it can potentially do, it can be dangerous. It can be dangerous because you don't have the knowledge to protect yourself, keep yourself safe from the things that can happen. And there's lots of them that can't happen. And it's not always your own horse. You can say, hey, I got a safe horse. My horse is good. I don't have to worry about my horse. That's true. You might not have to, but I actually have done a few videos on that subject too. It's not your horse you got to worry about. It's the other one. And speaking from experience again there, I've had that happen where the other horse would make my horse jump and step on me, bump into me, things like that. It's happened more than once. And it wasn't my horse that was the problem. It was the other horse. And my horse was simply interested in protecting its own backside. And at that point, I became inconsequential. It was simply looking out for number one in its book. So don't ever, that's another one of those things that gets a lot of people hurt, I think, is a lot of people say, oh, my horse would never let me get hurt. They care about me. They look out for me. Don't ever believe that. Because when it comes to the crunch, as much as that horse might like you and be very careful around you, if it comes to the crunch and it's you or them, sorry, you lose. So use your head, look around, be observant, use all the appropriate precautions necessary, think ahead of what can happen. The horse will warn you, on those. There's going to be those days, and I don't care if it's a brand new horse, a green horse that you're getting on for the first time, or a horse you've been riding for years. There is going to be those days where that horse is going to say, today is not a good day to be getting on me. And if you're paying attention and listening to the horse, that's going to prevent an accident. Trust me, I've been there. I know it. The horse will warn you. They never out of the blue do things. There's always warning in advance if you're paying attention and listening. Use those things to keep yourself safe. Please, don't rely on basically money spent on protective equipment to keep you safe. Use this thing up here to keep you safe. Use your eyes and ears to keep you safe. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the behavior of horses in general. And the crowds, the situation, confined spaces, all sorts of things. It's just a multitude of things that you can do to keep yourself safe. And most of the time when people get hurt, it's because they did something that put themselves in jeopardy unnecessarily, a situation that could easily have been avoided by either not going there, not getting on the horse in the first place, all sorts of things, or maybe just not getting on that particular horse. I don't know. There's just so many things that only you can prevent your injuries, okay? Safety. It's up to you. Only you can keep yourself safe around horses. Have a good day.